Okay, I guess let's go ahead and get started. Today we have a great webinar presentation by Amit Chourasia, SDSC's Visualization Group Lead and the PI for the SeedMeLab project on rich data sharing for HPC users. Before we get started, I'd like to point out Exceed has an external code of conduct. Everybody is usually pretty well behaved, but if you observe any kind of inappropriate behavior, please let us know at exceed.org/code of conduct. And Exceed is also making a concerted effort to provide training events that foster inclusion and show respect for everyone. So if you do see any terminology that you think is inappropriate, please bring it to our attention by sending an email to terminology@exceed.org. And with that, I will stop sharing and let Amit take over. Take it away, Amit.
All right, thanks, Jeff. All right, so let me share my screen here. Actually, can you see it? Can you see my screen, Jeff?
Yes, looks good.
Okay, good. So let's go back here. Well, welcome to this webinar on rich data sharing for HPC users. My name is Amit Chourasia. I lead the visualization group at SDSC, and I'm also the PI for this project. So some quick information which may be useful for you down the road. So the slides are available at that link. I'm also happy to schedule a Zoom conversation as one-on-one or in a group as you see fit. So feel free to use that link to schedule a conversation after this if you have some specific questions or need some specific help or have more interest in SeedMeLab in general. And then there is a help email as well. I'm going to paste all these in chat in a moment. Then I'm not going to be showing each and everything about SeedMeLab, which is the platform that powers HPCShare. But there are a few videos, very short videos that are available. I welcome you folks to kind of take a peek at them as time permits. So I'll paste these in chat as well. Then there's a fairly good documentation on the HPCShare website, very short, and you can peruse through that and use that when you're using the system. And then if you're interested in SeedMeLab, there is a trial available from a web browser, or if you're more interested on a technical side, there is a Dockerized recipe also available. So you're welcome to take a look at those as well. And then we have another event coming up, which is more geared for principal investigators and lab managers. So if you're interested in that, you're welcome to register for that as well. So let me paste all these things in chat so you have it. Okay, here we go. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so the first thing with HPCShare is you can register at hpcshare.sdsc.edu. I actually sent an invite to, I think, everybody. So you should get an email from noreply@seedme.org. So you can just click on that link to register to use the system. The presentation is largely in two components. First is going to be the overview of SeedMeLab, which basically is the software that powers HPCShare. And then we are going to dig in more deeper into how to use it from a web browser and through the Expanse system. And so I have a hands-on session. You're welcome to follow that, or of course the documentation lists all those things which we are doing here. So you can refer to those things at a later time as well. Okay, so if you're going to register, go ahead and visit the hpcshare.sdsc.edu website. You shouldn't need to because I just sent an invite, so you can just use that link to register. But if you're going to do that, or if somebody else is going to do that, you're going to go and create an account. For spam reasons, we have limited the registration to emails that end with .edu, .gov, and your NAVCO domains. But if you have another domain, we can add that to the whitelist. Or if you are available right now and need access to the system, you can just send a chat message directly to Jeff Sale, and he can give you an invite. But I believe I already sent an invite to everybody who registered. So you should have an email from the system. Check your spam folders or junk folders, because oftentimes it ends up there. Okay, so what are the problems which a lot of HPC users face? We know that, from tracking, the system use and so forth, 90% of the data which is shared from or moved from HPC system is less than a megabyte, right? But there's a lot of it which gets moved over. And so the HPC users obviously work with other people to kind of share information. Oftentimes the group is more than 2 people. And then the idea is, how do you kind of share the information which you compute on Expanse or Comet or any other cluster with your collaborators? So oftentimes the HPC users, devise ad hoc methods on how they will be going and sharing this information. And, you come up with these issues about where will you store the data? How will you transfer it? How will you automate the transfer? How will you set access control? And can you do some other kind of collaboration beyond just sharing files and folders? However, those are not the only thing that actually cause problems. I like to use the word information dispersion. It's not just the files and folders. There's a lot of context about the data which is being created, generated, or analyzed. Oftentimes, this context is spread in different systems. It could be in an email, it could be in meeting notes or meetings, or it could be spread in many different systems. And once this data gets scattered, it becomes really hard to kind of manage and use well. And then it is also causes problems with how different people choose to share information as that gets scattered as well. So a lot of information spread around becomes harder to manage over time. Also, the presentation of the data. I'm going to actually turn off my video and turn it back on a little bit late. The data presentation which is available and we use is fairly utilitarian, right? We kind of have a listing of files and folders. It's great, it works well, but it doesn't include the context. So we kind of miss out on things beyond the file names or folder names. And then once we don't have this context about the data, over time, it becomes harder and harder to use. The team members move on, you don't remember the file names or folder names, and it becomes hard. It's there, but it becomes hard. So I like to use the term dark data for that sort of situation. After a while, things kind of go cold and they're just very hard to find and use. So for the SeedMeLab project, our thinking was that can some part of the data be made available on the web? And if so, can we make it available and use the trifecta of tools like the web browser, the API, and command line? We want all 3 modalities available to kind of manage this data. Then obviously we want to share this with access control. And then more importantly, that sharing is not files and folders is not sufficient. We should be able to annotate the files and folders with context. So it could be metadata, it could be something else, it could be notes, whatever is appropriate. And then can we also present this data in a rich way? And so to build this software, we were looking for a framework which has many properties. I'm not going to go into those. We chose Drupal to kind of build this system. So the underlying content management framework is Drupal, and we build a file system on top of it and other things which basically make this possible. So here are key features for HPCShare, which is an instance of SeedMeLab for our HPC users at SDSC. The users can easily download, and upload data directly from Expanse to the site, right? Or they can move this data from elsewhere as well. You can do that through command line. So all the tools are already installed on Expanse, and we'll do a hands-on session later on about that. There's also an API if you have to integrate that at a programmatic level. And then, of course, you can use the system through the web browser. Like I mentioned, the files and folders can be uploaded and used. However, they can also be annotated with rich context, which could be, arbitrary text or, metadata, equations, and so forth. So you can write LaTeX or MathML, representation of your formula, and it will render as math equations. Then we also have a capability to create, light visualization of tabular data. So we have automatic capability to kind of parse out CSV and JSON files if they are small enough. And the idea is to not create the best visualization, but to give you a preview of what the data looks like. And these are all plugins. More plugins can be added. And then finally, the data obviously is not a static thing. There is a discussion around it. So there is an ability to comment on each file and folder, if that makes sense. So let's see what the platform overview of it looks like.
Is your data accessible to all your collaborators? Sure, your data is on the cloud, and others have access to it. But often the context of that data is limited to few team members, with crucial insights lost in meetings and emails. Over time, it becomes hard, then impractical to find information, or sometimes even reproduce results. So how do you improve collaboration, boost knowledge retention, and maintain continuity with changing team members? The answer is SeedMeLab, a web-based system that brings everyone's input and data into a single system. With SeedMeLab, you can store and share data, figures, equations, descriptions, and comments. Everything is indexed and searchable, so you can quickly find relevant notes or data, and never lose those insights ever again. SeedMeLab is packed with powerful capabilities. You can extend the file system to store additional metadata, visualize CSV and JSON files, and add plugins to present other file types. Integrate with your existing system using the REST client, and add personality to your data with custom theme and domain name that reflects your brand. SeedMeLab manages all your data and its context in a unified data management system and is accessible to you on the web. Search, manage, visualize, and share your data like never before.
Okay, so that's kind of a short video about the system, but let's go into further detail. So the way we think about data for the SeedMeLab project is, there's the data, but there are 4 other Ds associated with the data, which is the description of the data, the discussion of the data, its display, and then how do you go about discovering things. So I like to think of this as 5 Ds of data. So what are some use cases? So we are setting up, instances of SeedMeLab for research groups. There are some research groups which already have an instance of SeedMeLab, which doubles up as their project or group website as well. We also have some integration with science gateways and applications. And then finally, we are also deploying this as a resource for service providers like we do with HPCShare, but then others are also looking into rolling out a service like this for their users at other universities and other organizations. So let's take a quick look at how to use the system through a web browser. And then we'll spend time using the system in a hands-on way from Expanse.
Managing data on SeedMeLab via web browser. Let's take a quick walkthrough of using SeedMeLab. Log on to your SeedMeLab site. Head over to the data page and use standard file management operations available via File and Ancestor menu icons. Start by creating a folder and renaming it. We can describe this folder with equations, images, tables, etc. Now, Upload multiple files into this folder. We can add description to any file also. Descriptions are displayed along with file or folder and are searchable. Any file or folder can be discussed via comments at its location for easy collaboration. Find and discover files not just by file name or file extension, but also by keywords that may be found in descriptions or file content. Navigate through parent folders using breadcrumbs or the ancestor menu. Files may also be uploaded using drag and drop into the table region. Now, let's step through a set of images in a slideshow to assess them. Move files to a child folder via drag and drop or using the move operation. Select desired files and folders, then download them easily. Sharing can be performed from top-level file or folder, which greatly simplifies access management. From personal files, share a folder with site members, granting them desired access privilege. To share data with non-site members, use the invite operation in the same way. Opening files such as simple CSV and JSON displays automatic visualization. Few other file types, such as protein and phylogenetic files, can also be visualized. New plugins can be added to visualize other file formats too. SeedMeLab works just as well on mobile devices also. Unify your data, description, discussion, and discovery in one spot with SeedMeLab.
Okay, so that was a quick walkthrough of the system using through the web browser. So if you're already there, logged in, and have an account, you can head over to the system and start creating and uploading data. So let's see. I'm gonna put a few files in here. Let me just put a few files in here, just for our interactive demonstration. And the idea here is that I can add descriptions as well. So this is arbitrary text. I just added this text. Once this text is added, it will become searchable. Similarly, I can comment like the video we were showing earlier. So let's go back in here. I want to just mention something about sharing. So all the stuff that you own will show up under your home folder, which would be your name essentially. Anything that is shared with you will show up in the shared list. And then anything that is public will be available in the public list, whether you own it or not. That's regardless of that, right? So if I own a folder and I want to share it with someone, I can select that row and then click share. And then sharing can be done by, if you happen to have an email of a person, you can just type that and then give them view, which is the read permission, and then author, which is the write permission. And then you can add any number of users. Or if you want to make the data public, there is this option says everyone that can visit this website, you can give the view permission, so then the data becomes public. Now, for people who are not on the site or on the HPCShare site, you can invite them. So anyone, you can just type in their email address. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be edu or gov or anything. It can be whatever their email address is, and then you can give them permissions to the data, and they will get an invite link, just the link, just like the link which I sent you folks to kind of register, and then you'll have access to this data. Okay, so let's go back here. So I already covered sharing with site members and with non-site members with share command and with the invite command. let's take a quick look at visualization, which we already saw in the video, but let's just take a quick look at that interactively. So I'm going to go here to this folder. This is with showcase. And so here is the CSV file, which so we can see the data as the table. So many times you have some benchmarks or things like that, which is a simple CSV file. You can just throw it in here, and then you can quickly switch to visualization and take a look at it. So the idea is not to create the most accurate visualization, but to give you a preview of what that data looks like visually. And then here is the one for the protein file. So here is a protein structure, which gets rendered in 3D. And if you are interested in kind of using this capability, here is some samples in which your data should be in. So your data should be in a sort of a format with, let's say if you have a CSV file, it needs headers for it to parse and use that data. So here are some samples which you can use to just to modify your data if it needs to be modified so that the visualization works on HPCShare. So there's a minor modification that may be needed by just including some headers in the first row, and then that should be it. Okay, so that's about visualization. So let's take a look at how to use the system from Expanse cluster. So the first thing you're going to do is go ahead and log into the Expanse cluster via SSH. And then we have already have documented, a full set of help commands. You can use that, and I'm going to follow along those things and demonstrate that, and you can do that yourself as well. And so what we are going to use is a command line utility, which is called folder share. This is a utility or a REST client that we ship with, and it's already installed on HPC on Expanse cluster. So you don't have to install anything, you can just use it. So the first thing you need to do is, log into Expanse and then set up a few things, right? So you can export this path where the module is located for this utility, and then you can do module load folder share. And once you do module load folder share, then you can create an environment variable with a command like this. You could say folder share -- host. The site is hpcshare.sdsc.edu -- username, whatever is your username on this site, and then -- password. And we can store that into a variable. I'm going to call that FS. Now, all these three items can be added to your environment --rc file, so you don't have to do this over and over again. And then once you have this setup available, you can use and move the data back and forth from Expanse to HPCShare. Okay. So you can just cut and paste these things for now into your terminal. And in this command, you can replace your username and password. And so once you have these this setup, you can actually use this folder share command line utility to move the data back and forth and manage the data directly from Expanse. So the folder share command line client has commands which are similar to POSIX commands. So you have ls, makedir, remove, upload, copy, move, which is similar to POSIX commands. And then we have additional commands like upload, download, and update, which will upload the data, download the data, or change the description of the data using those three commands. So that's pretty much it. And the idea is that you use the prefix and then use the command like makedir and go about using the system. So if you want to get help for makedir, you do $fs, which actually stores your credentials in the command, and then you do -- help, so you get the help about the command. And then to create a folder, for example, you would do makedir and then the remote path. In this case, I'm going to create a path with, let's say, something called test and so forth. So let's go ahead and do that interactively. Let's see if I have any other notes here. Yeah, it's the same thing. So we are going to use this prefix. You will need this prefix to use the system. So there we go. So let's see. Okay, so I already have this set up here. I'm going to put a browser here. I'm already logged in as a user. So we can actually see as things are happening in the command line, you can start to see things in the web browser as well. It'll be a bit slow, but we'll see it nonetheless. So I have a script which goes through this. So the first thing we are going to do is log into Expanse through SSH. Then we are going to export this module path. You can just copy and paste this from the website. And then, like the prefix command environment variable, we are going to create this prefix fs environment variable, which holds your authentication credentials. And then we are going to use this prefix to view help of the commands that is available. So those are the set of commands that are available. And if you can see, those are fairly similar to the POSIX commands that we use. There are a few more here than I showed it in the presentation. So let's go ahead and create a folder. If we go and look at the mkdir command help, we can see there are only a couple of options. There is -p option that will create intermediate folders if you give a big path. And then there is a verbose option that will show as things are created. So here is an example of creating a folder on HPCShare. And here is an example of creating a hierarchy of folder, and you use the -p flag like you would do in POSIX, and it will create all those folders and intermediate folders on the system. So you already see that on the browser that the test folder got created. Then we have the list command. We can check the --help to kind of see what options are available for the list command. And to list the folder, you would just say list and then options and then the remote path. And you can recursively list a folder by using the capital R flag as well. So you can see that it will provide more details about the folders or files, and then also recurse if you provide that opt flag. Now to upload a file, there is a command called upload. Again, a bunch of options there. And so a couple options that we will use is -v and --sync. So -v will display the progress. So we are saying upload a local file, and that file is available to you as well, to a remote folder. And then we can also say, hey, upload this entire folder and sync it with the remote folder. So the sync option will upload any missing files from local folder to remote folder. So now that we have uploaded the file, let's do a listing of the remote folder. It just got uploaded. So those are a bunch of files which we just uploaded, and we can see them. And we can see in the browser that sample structured data folder got created. Similarly, there is a download command, and we can see its help. Again, the key options there are, again, we are going to use the -v option and then --sync option. They work in a similar fashion. So you say download, -v will show progress, and then --sync will download any missing files from remote host to local folder. So in this case, I've downloaded the test folder, and then we can see the listing of that on the local folder as well. Now, if you want to add some context to a file or folder, there is the update command. And again, the update command is fairly simple. We are going to say, hey, update description, and then give a text description to a file or a folder. And that will get appended to a file or a folder. So here we are adding hello world to a file which we just uploaded, but you can add an annotation or context to a folder as well. So once you have added a description, there is a way to get the description back as well through command line. We have to change the output format to text and then use the stat command. And then in the stat command, you can see it gives us many more things. but then there is this description key field is also available. Similarly, there is a copy command and move and remove command. Copy command has an option called --wait. If you don't give the wait command, it will immediately return. And what the system will do is it will return quick as soon as it gets this command. But the copy operation can take a long time, depending on what you're trying to copy. But if you give the --wait option, it will wait till the operation is finished. And that's useful if you have to issue other commands that depend on the success of copy and move commands. So --wait option will actually wait till those operations have been completed. If you're using this in scripts, then using the wait option is a good idea if those operations is something the subsequent commands will depend on. So that's kind of a very quick overview of using the commands on Expanse. All this is documented. So if you go to the site, and if you look at the home and help is the same page. And if you go here on the right side, it has this topic called usage from Expanse cluster at SDSC. And so all the interaction I showed here is noted here in exactly the same way. So you can try this out. This data directory is available to you for testing if you like to use this data, but of course you can use your own data for testing as well. So all this, all the commands I showed are available to you, and you can use that from Expanse right now. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation. Similarly, if you have to move the data from other computers, what do you need to do if you want to use the command line setup? So the folder share client which we provide is written in PHP. So you'll need to install PHP on a computer. We provide instructions how to do that. macOS already includes PHP, so you just need to download the client, the folder share client, and then use it in the same way like I showed it on Expanse. All you have to do is adjust the path for the folder share client and then just use it. And so we have instructions for that too. So if we go here on our main site, so if you go here in the help topics, and it says command line setup on other computers, right? So if you go here, we have fairly detailed instructions on what needs to be done. So on macOS, PHP is already installed, but on Linux and Windows, you can look at how to install PHP on both Linux and Windows. Windows is just get the executable and just install it. And on Linux, there are a couple of ways. If you have root access, you can install it using the package managers. Or if you don't have access, you can actually build it fairly easily. So here is an example of how to build it. And so you can follow those instructions and add PHP to your path, and then also the folder share utility to your path. You can download the utility from this page here, and you can download it through curl as well. So we keep this documentation updated as we add new clients to HPCShare. Sometimes there is a SKU, so you want to use the right version. And the idea is that the command line setup is same as what we described here, right? So you can use the same setup from any other computer, or from your local computer as well, right? So to conclude, we have a fairly well covered help page that covers all aspects of the system. And then this demonstration and webinar obviously would have helped you to kind of get a very good idea about how to use the system. If you have interest in integrating things from a programmatic point of view, there is an API, it's in PHP, and you can use that to integrate any application if you need to, but you can obviously just use scripting in Bash to kind of pipeline things as well. We have a couple of features which are coming in next few weeks. We'll be adding a capability to use authentication from a JSON file. Right now we have to type the username and password. In that case, we'll just put that in a file and just use that. And we're also going to create a Python wrapper for the folder share client which is still going to use PHP, but then you know, sometimes Python use maybe a more desired approach for some use cases. So you can use that too. I mean, you can use it right now also by using system calls, but we'll write a wrapper that will make it slightly easier. So you don't have to write that piece of code. I want to mention acknowledgements here, and especially thank the National Science Foundation, which originally funded this work. And then SDSC also funded this work to you know, maintain and make it more distributable. So we have you know, some time available for discussion, but of course, feel free to contact us via email if you like a conversation. Feel free to use that link to schedule a conversation. And if you'd like to learn more about SeedMeLab, there's the website. Take a peek at that. And then, you know, there's the trial I mentioned, and then the Dockerized recipe is also available for you know, those who are interested to kind of spin things like this on their own. And then also want to note this upcoming event on implementing research data management plan for labs and grants. This is more focused for our project stakeholders like principal investigators or you know, project managers. Of course, users are also welcome to attend. And so there's a event next week. Feel free to share that with others and you know, attend that if that makes sense for you. And with that, we can open for questions. Okay, so there was a question for a couple of people didn't get an invite, and we can provide that.
Actually, yeah, Amit, I did provide that. I think they're good in that regard. I just communicated behind the scenes with them.
Okay, perfect. All right. So there was a question also in chat about the maximum file size that can be uploaded. Currently, we have set that as 2 GB per file. So this is not in the quota, but it's per file. But we can change that to, you know, make it even larger. The one issue with larger files on web is that they become less usable over time, and you know, you don't know how to moving them is a problem. Managing them is also a problem. We can, if you have some thoughts there, we can discuss that offline as well. But the current limitation we have set is 2 GB. And like we said, like I mentioned earlier, most of the data movement which we see on HPC clusters is less than 1 megabyte. And those are the files that are being shared with lots of people. And so our goal here is to make all that, remove the friction available that may be there in sharing those kind of files and data, broadly speaking, with others. And so once you are into the system, you know, logged in, you know, once you are authenticated with the system, you can share it with anyone. The EDU and Gov registration requirements no longer apply. You just do that to control the spam at the self-registration. And if you're having trouble, you can, of course, send us an email. Yeah. Any other questions? Feel free to unmute and ask as well. We don't have a large group, so if you feel like, you know, not using the chat, feel free to unmute.
Yeah, I thought I would add at least that we've been a user of HPCShare for at least a year, if not 2, and have found it very useful. We're sharing images, and the connection with Expanse is also particularly useful for our needs because we have 3 people on the project who are all working on the same files. I also wanted to mention that we are recording this, and we'll send out a link after the recording to all the participants.
I have a question.
Sure.
Are there any features that are on your roadmap in the near future?
So we are constantly improving the system. So we have a very, very big roadmap, and you know, yeah. So I think if you're interested in, and so we are integrating, you know, different applications, for example, with SeedMeLab on how other systems can use SeedMeLab capability. either directly or indirectly. So we are doing things like that. You know, I mentioned a couple of clients improvements that we are going to roll out pretty soon. There are a whole host of things. I think it's time is too short to kind of go into lots of details, but if you have something specific in mind, I'm happy to field that.
I'm mostly thinking integrations where when people have data in existing repositories and how that interfaces.
Okay, I see. So that is, we have thought a lot about that, pardon me. And currently our thinking is to kind of, you know, the first step would be to kind of extend an ability to maybe read with existing local file system, as opposed to, you know, right now all the data needs to be in our system. And one idea is to kind of use an existing system and mount that and use that. Integrating any other system is a tremendous amount of work and challenge. The key problem there at a high level is you have one file system and you have two systems managing it. That creates a lot of contention. Like, let's say SeedMeLab has a file, lists a file, but that no longer now exists on a system because some other system deleted it. So how do you manage those kind of things? So there is a lot of issues like that. So while integration is possible, there is not really a very good solution to you know, keep those contentions out. One way people go around doing that is by not really integrating at all, by just issuing real-time commands to list things or you know, manage the data. And while that is an okay approach, but with SeedMeLab, we have all this metadata and other things which we think are of high value. And that approach doesn't work well with, you know, by just simply dynamically kind of listing another system underneath the hood.
Understood, thank you.
Great. I think there was another question which came up on chat. So the question is if some faculty at another university can use this service. I mean, we are not restricting it to, you know, in a broad sense. You're welcome to use it. But in principle, this particular service, we are dedicating it to our HPC users. So certainly you're welcome to use it. But if you have a broader need, we can have a conversation and perhaps we can set up an instance for you or your group or even, you know, university. Okay, so there was a question that, you know, I posted all these links and they got all lost. So I'm going to paste these again. So there are lots of links there. And the slides are also available, and all those links are available in the slides as well. All right, any final questions before we adjourn? Going once, twice, and thrice. Okay, well, great. Thanks for joining. How can we save this chat? Jeff, are we going to make the chat available? I think we have to strip out the emails, right? Are we going to make the chat available?
Yeah, we can do that. That's not a problem. Okay,
so I think look for an email coming out later with the recording of the webinar and this chat. And by the way, if you're interested in these links, they are available on the presentation website. So, sorry, the presentation slides as well. So if you go to data on HPCShare presentation and the presentation folder, all these links are there as well. So will replay be available? So the video will be available, right? So yeah, Jeff, the video will be available, right? So
yes, that's right. It usually takes a day or two to clean up the transcript.
Perfect. So yes, the video will be available. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. I wish you all the best in your research. And if HPCShare can be of use for you in one way or the other, please use that. And of course, happy to have a one-on-one conversation if that makes sense for you. All right, we'll adjourn here. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Amit. Good presentation. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, we ended on time too.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you, Jeff.
All right, bye.